please put your hands together for Dylan Lynch?
Hello, so I'm Dylan. As Jessamine said, I'm a chemist. And what I do is I study synthetic chemistry. So I kind of take small, really cheap molecules and try to stick them into nice, big, sexy ones, which is most of what I do. But when I was picking out a career path and I finally settled on chemistry, and you've all probably had this experience, you get people coming to you and they go, wow, chemistry, or any science, chemistry, that's really cool. You must be really smart. I always hated chemistry. I always hated chemistry. And all of a sudden you have to make it very glamorous and you have to make it very sexy. So you start spilling out everything that you know about chemistry or whatever science. The problem with chemistry is that you can't make it glamorous. You can't make it sexy. It's like riding a bike, except it's only half a bike because you're out of funding. And the bike is on fire and you're also forming all of the bad smells and you've destroyed the environment. So that's kind of most of what it is. But yeah, when I settled on it and people were still coming up and they were going, wow, chemistry, you must be really smart. I'm not a smart person. I have never, ever thought of myself as a smart person. I don't think that being an academic studying any science makes you smart. You don't get any common sense from lectures or anything like that. And I have a story that I use to illustrate this point. And this is all true, by the way. I was at work last year. It was a very, very rainy day. And in the lab above us is like the best postdoctoral researchers on the planet. And these are the smartest people I know, really highly published and all this. But it was a really wet day, and this one poor researcher came in, and he got dripping wet. He goes up into the lab, he had just about made it in time for a coffee. And he strips off all of his wet gear. And 10 minutes later, all of us are standing back outside in the pouring rain, and this poor guy comes down, hanging his head in shame. And we thought something terrible's gone wrong. Someone's mixed something dangerous together or left something on overnight. What he had done is he had taken off his nice black Clark shoes and taken a blowtorch to them to try and warm them up. And they went on fire and set the whole lab on fire. So all of us were standing outside in the pouring rain. So we just went and got ice cream, which is what you do. And that just kind of proves the point that just because you go to lectures or you have some degree or you have a PhD, that doesn't make you a smart person. And I am no better. I recently poisoned myself, which is really fun. We've all probably done this at some point. When you've gone out for a few too many pints and you wake up in the morning and your mouth is drier than the Sahara and your wallet is emptier than Apple's head tax office. And all of a sudden, oh, there's more to come. And all of a sudden you think you've had telekinesis the whole time. You can get the Lucozade to fly from the fridge up the stairs and into your mouth. That's like mild alcohol poisoning. We've all been there. What I did was a lot worse. We use this solvent, which is hexane, and a lot of you who do biology or chemistry or physics even will have worked with hexane at some point. You use it by the bucket load, it's not that great, but I had left a load of it out in the sun, which is something you should never do, and it had all heated up, and the solvent cans that we have are a little bit like something out of the Wizard of Oz, like a weird sort of oil can, and it had all evaporated, and I inhaled in a load of it and had to take a couple of days out of the lab. So I'm no better. And that just kind of got me thinking about the risks that we take for science. When things don't come as pretty white powders and pretty white bottles, these things are really dangerous. And a lot of the chemicals we use are really dangerous. And they've been used in assassinations. They've been used in all sorts of things. So in chemistry, what we use is LD50. Hands up if you've heard of LD50 before? Woo, one, that's good. I have one friend. So LD50 is kind of how dangerous, how much something will mess you up is LD50. So it's a measurement of how much of the substance per kilogram of body weight will be enough to kill you. So things like benzene, which is a solvent we use, it's like 9 grams of that maybe. Pyridine, which is a base we use, that's like 100 grams. So if you have a body like mine, which I've heard described as not terrible, but definitely enjoys pasta, you're probably coming in kind of the 80 to 90 range, so all those figures are right for you. And again, those aren't too dangerous, but something that I work with a lot is cyanide. So I use a lot of sodium cyanide in the lab. 1.5 grams of this, and you're dead. I have a ½ kilo of it on the bench at home, but 1.5 grams, you're dead. And what we use that for is a thing called Umpa chemistry, which is the second best-sounding German word on the planet, right after the word for flamethrower, which is Flammenwerfer, because it werfs the Flemmen, which I think is fantastic. So yes, we do a lot of Umpa chemistry, and sodium cyanide is pretty dangerous, but it's not nearly as dangerous as hydrogen cyanide, which people have definitely heard of, I'd say. Hydrogen cyanide is terrifying. Most academics that I know won't do any reactions with it. They won't do any reactions that make it. And if you've ever baked with almonds, you've smelt it. So you ever get the smell of bitter almonds? That's hydrogen cyanide, which is really terrifying. There's a few parts per million of that, and you're gone on the floor. And I actually am especially afraid of it because I had a really bad experience with cyanide as a kid. Hi, Mom. This is the first time you've heard the story. When I was a kid, I was watching over my younger cousin, and I was maybe 10 or 11 at the time, and we had a load of apple trees in the back garden. And we used to use them for desserts and things like that. We actually had multiple apple trees. Only one of them would ever give us fruit. The rest just kind of sat there. Couch potato version of trees. Didn't pay rent. They were apple trees, so they definitely didn't pay taxes. I'm telling you, I have a 2-week window where these are relevant. I'm just going to keep milking it. Like they milk the corporate tax policy. But anyway. But yes, so my younger cousin came over and he was eating the apples off the tree like we all do. But this kid was like a black hole. He was like a Hoover, like a human Roomba, a Hoomba, that kind of deal. And he ate the seeds and he ate the cores and he ate everything. And I had heard that these seeds had cyanide in them or they had poison in them or something. So naturally, I just scooped them up and just started firing them over the back wall out of the garden. And my dad comes out and says, "What are you doing?" And in my confusion, all I can think of is seeds! So they're going over the back wall. And the really funny thing is that the guy that used to live next to us was the local GP. So it was Dr. McDonald's backyard that they were going into. And if there's one thing that I've learned from doing chemistry and messing around with cyanide, is that an apple a day will keep the doctor away, but 60 of them over his back wall will ruin his ferret beds and put you on the neighborhood watch. Thank you very much.